An aneurysm is a weak spot in the wall of a blood vessel. If it bursts, blood flow stops. The result? A blood clot, rupture, stroke, or death. 35-year-old singer and songwriter Pam Reynolds suddenly found herself unable to speak. An MRI revealed a large aneurysm. It's so large that doctors believed she wasn't going to survive. There was only one way to save Pam. In order to operate, doctors would have to lower her body temperature to 60 degrees Fahrenheit and drain the blood out of her head, cut the aneurysm before it killed her, then gently bring her back from peril. In other words, to keep Pam alive, her doctors would have to nearly kill her. While Pam Reynolds' body lay still, in surgery, her spirit traveled to realms that most of us could only imagine. But one man, Emanuel Swedenborg, claims to have been there too, and he believes that death is just the beginning. Pam would have to undergo a dangerous surgical technique called hypothermic cardiac arrest. This procedure basically freezes her body, stops her heart and her blood flow, so that doctors could operate in delicate locations that are impossible to access under normal circumstances. For the duration of her surgery, she would be clinically dead. Doctors knew that it would be challenging, that the risks were high, but Pam's aneurysm was a ticking time bomb. Without the surgery, it would almost certainly kill her. So the surgery was her only option. Pam wanted to live, and so she agreed to die, temporarily. But no one could have predicted what was happening in her mind while her body was frozen. We may conclude that whatever is alive in us is our spirit, and that the body only serves it exactly the way a tool serves a live and activating force. We may, of course, say that a tool works, or moves, or strikes, but it is a mistake to believe that this is a property of the tool and not of the person who is wielding it. While Pam's body was unconscious in the operating room, her mind was floating high above and looking down, watching the operation with perfect clarity. Her physical senses were completely blocked. Her body was nearly dead, and yet here she was, watching herself in the hospital. Swedenborg described being in a state halfway between sleep and waking while our bodies are dying. In this state, he says, our senses are the same as they are when we are physically wide awake, except better. These senses are more perfect than they can ever be during physical wakefulness. It is the state described as being taken out of the body and not knowing whether one is in the body or outside it. Like Swedenborg, Pam experienced heightened senses. She described them as beyond what she'd ever experienced, like she was somehow more alive. As she watched the scene unfold below her, she began to feel an insistent, gentle pull, a nudge to follow. But what was she following? Pam didn't resist. She allowed herself to be pulled upward into a bright light.
I felt a presence. I sort of turned around to look at it, and that's when I saw the very tiny pinpoint of light. And the light started to pull me. And there's a physical sensation to the pulling, and I know how that must sound. Nonetheless, it's true. There was a physical sensation, rather like going over a hill real fast. Tell me. And I went toward the light. The closer I got to the light, I began to discern different figures, different people, and I distinctly heard my grandmother call me. She has a very distinct voice. And I immediately went to her. And it felt great. And I saw an uncle who passed away when he was only 39 years old. He taught me a lot. He taught me to play my first guitar. And I saw many, many people I knew and many, many I didn't know. But I knew that I was somehow in some way connected to them.
As soon as we arrive in the other life, we are all recognized by our friends and relatives and by people we have known in one way or another. Pam's family reunion was exactly what Swedenborg had described centuries earlier, but it was a brief event. Pam's family told her that she couldn't come any farther, because if she did, she would be unable to go back, and she had more to do on Earth. Pam wasn't allowed to enter. Her family told her that she had to return to her body, and therefore return to her life on Earth. Before they sent her back, they wanted to help restore her health. The spirits began to feed her something that she couldn't identify. She described it as something sparkly. Whatever it was, it made her feel strong and healthy, and she felt prepared for anything. She wanted to go back. This time, her uncle escorted her through the end of the tunnel. But when she saw her body, she froze.
Then I got to where the body was, and I looked at the thing, and I for sure did not want to get in it because it looked pretty much like what it was, as in void of life. And I knew it would hurt, so I didn't want to get in. And he kept reasoning with me. He says, like diving into a swimming pool, just jump in. No. What about the children? You know what? I think the children will be fine. Honey, you gotta go. No. He pushed me. He gave me a little help there. It's taken a long time, but I think I'm ready to forgive him for that. But I landed. I saw the body jump. I saw it do this number. And then he pushed me, and I felt it do this number.
Pam said that landing back in her body felt like plunging into ice water. Coming home is never easy, but her life wasn't finished. She had more to do before she would be ready for the next life. The grand purpose, or the purpose of all elements of creation, is an eternal union of the Creator with the created universe. The Lord did not create the universe for his own sake, but for the sake of people he would be with in heaven. By its very nature, spiritual love wants to share what it has with others, and to the extent that it can do so, it is totally present, experiencing its peace and bliss. Pam Reynolds was back on Earth, back in her body. Her surgery was over, and her doctors slowly raised her temperature, reviving her. Months after her surgery, she astonished them by describing vivid details of the operation, things she couldn't possibly have known.
I don't remember an operating room. I don't remember seeing Dr. Spetzler at all. I was with a fellow. One of his fellows was with me at that time. After that, nothing. Absolutely nothing. until the sound. And the sound was unpleasant, was guttural. It was reminiscent of being in a dentist's office. And I remember the top of my head tingling, and I just sort of popped out of the top of my head. And I was then looking down at the body. I knew it was my body, but I didn't care. My vantage point was sort of sitting on the doctor's shoulder. I remember the instrument in his hand. It looked like the handle of my electric toothbrush. I had assumed that they were going to open the skull with a saw. I had heard the term saw, but what I saw looked a lot more like a drill than a saw. It even had little bits that were kept in this case that looked like the case that my father stored his socket wrenches in when I was a child. And I remember distinctly hearing a female voice saying,
"We have a problem. Our arteries are too small. Try the other side."
It seemed to come from further down on the table. I do remember wondering, what are they doing? Because this is brain surgery. And what had happened was they accessed the femoral arteries in order to drain the blood. And I did not understand that.
And she remembered the music playing when she woke up, which was Hotel California. All this despite being unconscious, eyes taped shut, ears plugged with devices that clicked to test her hearing, and a flat EEG. That means no brain activity. Michael Sabum, a cardiologist in Atlanta who was researching near-death experiences, checked out Pam's medical record after hearing her story.
According to the records, there were 20 doctors in the room. There was a conversation about the veins in her left leg. She was defibrillated twice. They were playing Hotel California. How about that bone saw? Sabum got a photo from the manufacturer. It does look like an electric toothbrush. Sabum asks, how could she know these things?
Even if she was wide awake, she could not have heard because of what they did to her ears. In addition, both of her eyes were taped shut, so she couldn't open her eyes and see what was going on. So her physical sensory perception was off the table.
For some, the clarity of Pam's memory and the impossibility of her physically witnessing the surgery provide hard evidence that consciousness operates independently of the brain. Swedenborg would agree. He wrote that our awareness does not come from the body. We are human because of our spirit, not because of our body. A spirit is clothed with a body that suits its form. But Pam's spirit wasn't done being in a body yet. She returned to her life, raising 4 daughters with her husband and business partner. She continued to write and record songs like Coming Back to Life and Side Effects of Dying. She told reporters that after her experience, she was less judgmental, more idealistic. She believed that God existed in everything. Friends called her intuitive and compassionate. Her husband said that her empathy was incredible. Pam passed away in 2010 at just 53. She left a legacy of music, love, and kindness. Her story remains one of the most compelling cases of life beyond death. But for Pam, the lesson was simple. Life is about love, not perfection. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. This is Curtis Childs. This has been the NDE Files. If you want to see another episode, we recommend this one.